UN structure, in the way the UN entities collaborate and operate. As we've mentioned in the past, the UN80 process and the proposals included in the new report aim to strengthen how we deliver across all three pillars of our work: peace and security, sustainable development, and, of course, human rights. The report was issued ahead of the high-level week to inform the deliberations between member states on the ways to strengthen the UN system. But I can also tell you that the Secretary General will formally present the report to member states in October after the high-level week. This evening, and this evening there will be an event commemoration of the UN at 80, a living legacy, that will take place in the General Assembly Hall. The Secretary General will speak and is expected to say that the United Nations lives in every peacekeeper who stands between conflict and calm, in every humanitarian worker who reaches the unreachable, and in every diplomat who chooses dialogue over discord. He will ask all of us to honor the legacy that we have inherited and commit to the legacy that we will leave behind. Turning to the situation in the Gaza Strip. The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that the ongoing strikes and ground operations continue to exact a heavy toll on battered and exhausted civilians. As the offensive in Gaza City intensifies, the influx of newly displaced people arriving in the south is putting even more stress on already overstretched services, as spaces in southern Gaza continues to shrink due to overcrowding. Our colleagues report that people are arriving deep into the night, many of them walking for long hours without food, without water, and without shelter. The coastal Al-Rashid road remains extremely congested as vehicles, donkey carts, tuk-tuks, and people on foot make their way south amid the escalating attacks. Despite the announcement by the Israeli authorities to allow Salah ad-Din Road to be used by people fleeing south, partners report that the road is impassable for travel by vehicles as the road requires repairs. Today, Israeli authorities also announced that the 48-hour window to use the road is now closed, making Al-Rashid the only passage available for civilians who want to leave north. The UN and our partners continue to respond wherever we can, in whatever way we can, despite the obviously extremely challenging circumstances and the ongoing insecurity. Yesterday, an interagency mission led by our OCHA colleagues carried out an assessment mission in multiple areas of Khan Yunis, where people displaced from the north have recently arrived. The assessment noted high levels of need among the displaced families, especially for shelter, for food, for water, for medical care, for every essential part of survival. OCHA reiterates that the volume of supplies entering Gaza remains below the threshold necessary to address people's deepening needs. Furthermore, humanitarians require conditions on the ground to enable them to reach the most vulnerable people with assistance safely, rapidly, and consistently. The looting of supplies remains a critical obstacle, preventing the UN and our partners from being able to deliver aid at scale, including community-based mechanisms, which have proved successful in the past. In a statement issued today, our colleagues at UNICEF tell us that yesterday, 4 trucks full of ready-to-eat therapeutic food were stolen at gunpoint at Gaza City. The stolen supplies would have helped at least 2,700 severely and acutely malnourished children with life-saving support at a time where famine has been confirmed in Gaza Governorate and the ongoing military operation is creating further displacement, as we've been telling you, and compounding the devastating impact of this conflict on children. Today, UNICEF also was forced to cancel their mission to Karim Shalom to pick up supplies for the 3rd day in a row due to the high risk of looting on the route that was cleared by the Israeli authorities for us to use. Access impediments and delays persist, adding to the challenges faced by humanitarians delivering aid to people who are so desperate to receive it. Zikim Crossing, which, as you know, is the only direct crossing into the north, remains closed. Furthermore, since last Thursday's, attempts to coordinate water trucking in the north have been denied, and access to the water pipeline that runs from Israel into Gaza remains blocked, further limiting the supply of usable water. Today, a mission to deliver fuel to Gaza City had to be aborted as the convoy waited over 5 hours for approval and a green light to actually move. As thousands of people continue to flee south on the coastal road, the congestion that builds later in the day makes it impossible for us and our partners to reach Gaza City safely. OCHA reminds us that humanitarian must have safe, rapid, unimpeded access, including to and within northern Gaza, to reach all those people who so desperately need our help. Those who are fleeing must be allowed to do so safely, and they must be allowed to return once the situation allows it, if they wish. Also, just referring to what we saw happen yesterday, I can tell you the Secretary General strongly condemns yesterday's attack at the King Hussein Bridge, the Allenby crossing with Jordan, in which 2 Israelis were killed by a Jordanian driver of an A truck that was bound for Gaza. He underscores the imperative of safeguarding the humanitarian and impartial nature of relief efforts. He calls on all parties to allow and facilitate rapid and unimpeded passage of humanitarian relief for civilians in need, including through all available crossings, as we've been saying, and routes. The Secretary General calls on all actors to exercise maximum restraint and avoid actions that could further inflame tensions in an already very volatile situation. Heading north, following yesterday's strikes by Israeli military in southern Lebanon, our peacekeepers there called on the Israeli Defense Forces to refrain from any further strikes and to fully withdraw from Lebanese territory. The peacekeeping mission tells us that yesterday the IDF conducted several airstrikes in the UNIFIL area of operations. These strikes put the lives of Lebanese soldiers, the peacekeepers themselves, and civilians in danger. We once again urge the parties to refrain from any activities that may jeopardize the cessation of hostilities, and we remain committed to supporting the parties to implement Security Council Resolution 1701. Meanwhile, our peacekeepers have continued to observe IDF activities today in the mission's area of operations, including mortar fires from the southern part of the Blue Line that impacted 2 areas in Sector East. Meanwhile, peacekeepers assisting the Lebanese armed forces in clearing rubble in Sector West found a landmine and other unexploded ordnance. Separately, UNIFIL Patrol found an unguarded weapons cache in Sector East and reported it to Lebanese armed forces, as they do. Moving to a horrendous humanitarian situation unfolding in Sudan. We saw that yesterday, the shocking reports of the attack that struck a mosque near the Abu Shuk camp in El Fasher. Our resident and humanitarian coordinator in Sudan, Denise Brown, said today that this attack claimed the lives of dozens of civilians who were worshiping there, reminding us that international humanitarian law demands the protections of religious sites and those civilians who worship there. She called for an investigation and for the perpetrators to be held to account. The ongoing siege of El Fasher has already created a severe humanitarian crisis, cutting off food, medicines, and other life-saving support. We reiterate our call for an immediate cessation of fire in and around El Fasher. Humanitarian access of personnel and supplies must be facilitated in order for us to reach those in need. And just to note that a report issued by our human rights colleagues in Geneva today showed that the conflict-driven crisis in Sudan in the first half of this year, with a significant rise in civilian killings, including summary executions, amid growing ethnic violence and a worsening humanitarian situation. The report calls on states to use this influence to end this conflict. Turning to South Sudan, our humanitarian colleagues say that our partners, along with ourselves, continue to deliver vital aid despite widespread flooding across the country. According to local sources, nearly 380,000 people have now been impacted by the floods, with the majority of them in Jonglei and Unity states. 135,000 people have been displaced and are now seeking shelter in a higher ground. We and our partners are distributing food. Our colleagues with nutrition have reached more than 1,300 children under the age of 5, while the UNICEF has pre-positioned nutrition supplies to treat malnourished children. Our partners have also delivered medical supplies to support routine emergency services and repair boreholes and constructed dikes. Our humanitarian colleagues also tell us that these efforts are taking place despite significant challenges. These include limited funding and shortages of critical supplies. Flooding is also cutting off communities and rendered roads impassable, particularly in Unity, Upper Nile, and Jonglei State. The health risks linked to the floods, including rising cases of malaria and cholera, are a very serious threat. Turning to Haiti, where the situation is pretty dire there, including with flooding. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that flooding in the Northwest Department has impacted hundreds of families. According to authorities, heavy rains earlier this week triggered a sudden overflow of a river, flooding several neighborhoods in a number of communities in the northwest area of the country. Initial figures indicate that 460 families have been affected, 550 houses flooded. Several fishermen also reported missing. Businesses, houses, crops, livestock, and fishing activities have been affected. The bridge over the river sustained heavy damage, and roads connecting the town of Port-au-Paix to other communities is now impassable. Haitian civil protection teams, supported by local volunteers, have been deployed to conduct rapid assessments, and OCHA, in close collaboration with the civil protection and humanitarian partners, is also monitoring the situation, coordinating efforts to ensure urgent needs are addressed and identified. Those needs include evacuation, clearing of blocked roads, sanitation, non-food items, fuel for generators, and mosquito nets, among other things. Authorities warn that without urgent action, the situation could get even worse as the hurricane season continues. Quick update from the Democratic Republic of the Congo and our peacekeepers there. Yesterday, the mission's temporary operating base in Komanda, near Bunia in the Ituri province, responded to gunfire in the area. Peacekeepers were swiftly deployed to assess the situation and fired warning shots to deter the threat. According to the Congolese armed forces, the incident was linked to a robbery attempt attributed to members of an armed group. The situation has since been brought under control. Peacekeepers continue to carry out regular patrols in the area to help protect civilians and support efforts to maintain stability. Couple of international days. What is tomorrow is World Cleanup Day. Who knew? This day is a reminder that if there was no action taken now on waste management, the global direct cost of waste management could almost double to a staggering $640.3 billion United States dollars within 25 years. And on Sunday is a day you should all know. It is the International Day of Peace. Peace. This is what we hear. In his message, the Secretary General says peace is everyone's business. We must silence the guns and suffering, build bridges, create stability, and create prosperity. Deji, then James.
Today, General Assembly adopted a resolution allowing Palestinian president to participate in the GA general debate as well as the international conference via, let's say, pre-recorded video. Does that mean that there's the result that the visa has been denied officially? Or
first of all, what the status of the visa is something you should ask either the Palestinian delegation or the United States government. We do not have the stamps to put into passports. I think so. The General Assembly took a decision to ensure that the voice of President Abbas and the image of President Abbas will be able to be seen. As for the visa issue, I think you'd have to ask the two parties concerned.
Okay. Just right before the general debate, the Rockefeller Foundation commissioned a poll in 34 countries. It suggested that 75% of the people, they back global cooperation if it solves problem. Meanwhile, the support, the trust in UN was just 58%. It's even lower than WHO, which is 60%. Any response on these figures by the Secretary General?
I think a few things. One of them is that we try to communicate at our best about the work of the United Nations. But the United Nations also needs to be defended and promoted by its 193 members and its two permanent observers. It is their organization. And I think when people feel displeased about the UN, and I think everyone has a right to sometimes be happy or be unhappy with what happens here, it is important that people see sometimes beyond what grabs the headlines, which is often the debates in the legislative bodies. I think, as the Secretary General says, the UN is much more than just the Security Council, where we know there is lack of progress on a number of files. But we will continue to promote the ideals of this organization and to defend it, and we expect member states to also do the same.
One last thing, are we going to have briefings next week?
Thank you for reminding me that I was supposed to remind you. So tomorrow and Sunday, our office will be open. So we'll have a crew if you guys need anything. I know Malu will obviously be here. We will have a briefing on Monday, and then you will be relieved to know that we will not have a briefing Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, unless there's some sort of breaking news that will compel us to do so. And we will be back at the podium on Friday. Mr. Bays.
So first, a follow-up on the GA vote. The Secretary General meets a huge number of leaders over high-level week. Will he try and have he would normally meet President Abbas. Will he try and have a video call with President Abbas?
It's too early to tell.
Okay. Moving to what's been going on in the Security Council, yet again, we've had the US using its veto. Yet again, we've had a ceasefire, which I know you've repeatedly said is needed, blocked 14-1. What's the Secretary General's reaction? Well,
the Secretary General's reaction is that his position on what is going on in Gaza, on what is needed in Gaza, remains unchanged. And I think he laid it out fairly clearly when you asked him the question during the press briefing, James. Our position is unchanged. We want to see a ceasefire. Right. We want to see humanitarian aid flow through every possible crossing to meet the needs that are increasing by the day. We want to see the remaining hostages free and reunited with their families. And we want to see hope again for both Israelis and Palestinians to live in peace.
And the one person who probably has some influence on this, who could change Prime Minister Netanyahu, whose mind is President Trump. The Secretary General gets to meet President Trump next week. Will that message on Gaza be the number one message that the Secretary General will be trying to impart to President Trump?
Look, I think the Secretary General will would not want me to preview what cards he will play when he meets with President Trump. But as I answered to one of your colleagues, there will be a lot of issues of mutual interest. And he's been clear that the U.S. does have influence and does have a role to play. And I think he talked about the fact that he had neither carrots nor sticks in answer to a question, I think, from Michelle, and that member states, and some member states more than others, have both carrots and sticks to try to help us move in the right direction.
And finally, the Security Council today, a vote that means the snapback process continues towards the deadline of the 27th. Clearly, in the JCPOA, the snapback was the collapse of the JCPOA, and the Secretary General's in favour of diplomacy. Is he worried the way it's going, and what are his hopes for high-level week on this?
Look, we hope to see progress during high-level week on a number of urgent issues, including this one. We've seen the Security Council decision taken today, and that we know that if there's no diplomatic breakthrough in the coming days, the sanctions will be reimposed, I think, by the 27th, right, and keeping in the deadline set by the resolution. For us, it's clear that time is running out. We reiterate our call for a diplomatic resolution to the Iranian nuclear program, emphasizing the importance of dialogue and upholding the UN Charter. Sylviane, and then we'll go here.
Thank you, Stefan. The Lebanese Minister of Foreign Affairs...
Your microphone closer to your mouth, please.
Okay.
Sorry.
The Lebanese Minister of Foreign Affairs met this morning with Secretary General. Is there any readout?
I don't have a readout yet, but I hope to get one.
When is the Secretary General is expected to meet with the President?
It'll be during the week. So
you have any date?
no. So we will need you to bear with us, right? We will issue the list of bilaterals the day before. The reason we can't preview them in advance is that things are changing literally all the time. I'm happy to, if you drop by my office, I'm happy to give all of you some guidance, but we're not going to confirm anything until the night before.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you, Stefan. James asked part of my question, but talking about the snapback mechanism, is it means this implementation of the snapback means the diplomacy has been halted, or there is any chance the Secretary General during the UNGA wants to discuss that with President of Iran, Mr. Pezeshkian? Thank you.
There's always a chance for diplomacy, right? I mean, that's what we're all about, and I think that's the Secretary General's guiding principle, is that he will never give up on diplomacy. Now, obviously, we're faced with a calendar now after what the Security Council, what happened in the Security Council today. Time is running out, but there is still room for diplomacy. We want to see that time being used exactly for that. Yep. Did you have another one? Yes, go ahead.
Is there any specific
For
any for the meeting or
well, I mean,
having
this will be a
diplomacy?
topic that will come up between the Secretary General and the relevant interlocutors. Yep.
So still regarding the JCPOA, China and Russia are circulating a draft resolution on technical extension of Resolution 2231. Does the Secretary General support this idea of technical extension?
I think we, as you know, we will not opine on before vote. Let the Security Council members in their wisdom discuss it and take action on it. Alex, and then Stefano.
Thanks, Steph. On completely different topic on the ENJ, are we having any additional security measures this year?
For the
GA, yeah.
Listen, I think inside the building, we're, to paraphrase Spinal Tap, our amp is always up to 11 when it comes to security issues. I think outside, it is the responsibility of the host country. I think we had I don't know if you had a chance to be there. There was a press briefing yesterday. We are cooperating, I think, like this with the host country, with the U.S. Secret Service, of course, with the New York City Police Department and the State Department security services. And we feel very confident in all the preparations that have been made and the way that the security architecture will shift depending on what is going on outside. But inside the building, it's always maximum. Yeah. Stefano.
Thank you, Stefan. Given recent cases wherein the U.S. media voices, even satirists, have been silenced under political pressure, does the Secretary General believe that the erosion of freedom of expression is in established democracy, even the one they invented and inserted in its constitution, poses a direct threat to the UN broader mandates to defend human rights worldwide?
Look, no country, I think every country in the world, including what you would refer to as established democracies, can always do better in terms of human rights, and we will continue to push in that direction. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Steph. You mentioned days ago that the Secretary General will meet East 30 Prime Minister Netanyahu if the latter has an interest. So have you scheduled a meeting?
I'm not aware that a meeting has been requested by the Israeli side at this point. Okay. Sorry, let's go to the back. Let's go keep the first round.
Thank you, Steph. After yesterday's drone and missile attacks by the Houthis in Yemen on Israeli soil, Defense Minister Israel Katz threatened to kill the Iran-backed group's leader. My question is, obviously there's a lot going on in the next week, and there's a lot of different conversations and events that are going to take place. Is this situation between the Houthis and Israel at a high point
it is
priority for the Secretary General?
We are living in a world where there are many situations that are at a high level, right? That we need to deal with, that need to be dealt with in a multilateral setting, and that includes the situation in Yemen. Deji, then Sylviane.
Yes, you just mentioned when you answered my colleague question, your office not aware of any arrangement between the Prime Minister Netanyahu or an SG meeting, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so
That's what I just said.
So
5 minutes ago. It
yesterday, what
hasn't changed.
we have learned is that the Israeli mission also said they are not aware of any such kind of arrangement.
Well, that
which means this wouldn't happen.
that just means it is true today.
So okay, so if they don't meet, how can just like you said implement diplomacy?
Well, listen, we have other constant contacts with the Israeli authorities, and I think the Secretary General was very clear in the answer, I think, to a question of one of your colleagues about a potential meeting with the Prime Minister of Israel. Sylviane, and then back to James.
The disarmament of Hezbollah is proving to be a complex and unresolved issue. While Israel appears determined to continue its bombardment in Lebanon, what concrete steps can the United Nations take to break this deadlock and prevent further escalation?
Well, I guess my question to you, Sylviane, is kind of related to the way I answered Deji, is when people say, what steps can the United Nations do, which United Nations are you speaking about, right? I think member states, especially those implicated in the region, have a great role to play in putting pressure on the parties, in ensuring the implementation of 1701. For ourselves, in terms of the Secretariat, we are supporting Lebanon's efforts to assert its authority over the whole of its territory, to keep the monopoly of arms within the hands of the government. And I think that's what our colleagues at UNIFIL do every day in trying to implement 1701. It has been a challenge to implement that resolution. That's just a fact, right? That's just a fact. We also have our colleagues at the Ms. Janine, the special coordinator in Lebanon, who's been very focused on this. So we're doing our part. The Secretary General, his staff, is doing our part. Others also need to do theirs. James.
Does the Secretary General have any concerns after the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel about press freedom in the United States?
I think that was my answer to Stefano.
Sorry,
okay, that's all right.
But I do have two questions about international peace and security.
Excellent.
One, there is a meeting now planned between President Xi and President Trump at APEC, the two arguably most powerful men in the world. What's the Secretary General think of that?
It's a good thing, right? I mean, I think it's good for the world that the leaders of two largest economies in the world meet face to face, hash out whatever issues they have on trade and other issues that they may want to discuss. I mean, you don't need to be a highfalutin analyst to understand that the relations between China and the People's Republic of China and the United States has an impact on the world as a whole.
And the other thing I want you to comment on is, yet again, we have NATO saying that there's been violation of its airspace in Estonia. This is the latest example. NATO apparently intercepted Russian aircraft. This is getting dangerous. Your reaction?
Okay.
The Secretary General's
I was
reaction.
waiting for a question.
Yeah. What's the Secretary General's reaction?
I mean, the Secretary General is obviously concerned by the heightened tensions that we are seeing in Eastern Europe. And again, we hope that this General Assembly, this high-level debate, will be a chance for diplomacy to be re-engaged on this issue. Thank you. One more question.
There's a phone conversation between Chinese president and the U.S. president this morning. Does the Secretary General has any comments on the conversation?
I think it's just what I just said, James. I mean, we're just told to James 2 seconds ago. I think it is always positive when the leaders of the world's two largest economies are in open and frank dialogue. Thank you all. I'll see you tomorrow if you want to come by, and I'll see you that day.